Hello and welcome to this evening's Destination Wellbeing. This evening my guests are Michelle McKeever and Phelim O'Neill, and just before we begin, if we can just make sure we cover off and have a little bit of a disclaimer here. We have Destination Wellbeing, and all of our participants and guests we encourage you basically to look after your own health, your own well-being, and always to do your own research. So the information that we'll be sharing over this evening are based on mine, the presenter's research, Michelle's own personal experience, and Phelim's research and personal experience as well. And really this evening we're going to be talking about brain injury, particularly with children, and in particular the programme that the Family Hope Centre based outside Pennsylvania run, but they're running a programme now in Dublin in September, and Michelle has some personal experience having attended a 4-hour introduction seminar to the work that can be done with children and young people in order to help to bring along brain development. And I'll allow Michelle and Phelim both just in turn there to introduce themselves. Thanks for joining us this evening, guys. Really looking forward to hearing a bit more about the Family Hope Centre, certainly from your professional background, Phelim. Michelle and myself attended the seminar, I had heard, so I read actually about it back in February time in one of the local papers, and having known some of Ronan's problems as a reflexologist, I had done some work with Ronan, and thought that it might be useful for us to go along and see what it was to say. And I have to say I personally was blown away with the information that was provided there. So Michelle, if you want to just introduce yourselves to our audience and our listeners this evening.
My name's Michelle, and I had my son Ronan. He's 3.5 now. Again, as Joanne said, she was doing reflexology with him, and we were working with him on a continual basis on it, trying to develop his speech, trying to develop his awareness, etc. And we went along to the seminar, and we were absolutely blown away by the information that we gained from a 4-hour seminar. We've been introducing them at home, things like crawling and different aspects. Maybe Phelim, you can develop more on what actually the Hope Family Centre does, but it gave us, as the title says, hope that Ronan's progress can be developed further. If you want to.
And Phelim, we have Phelim to thank for publicising the work locally. So even just from your professional background, Phelim, how did you yourself come across the...
I actually came across it about 2.5 years ago. A friend of mine from Denmark had their son on the programme, had the usual thing with parents that went round, looking for the best place for their child to get some benefit. After getting a diagnosis from their doctors and being told that this is it, this is what's going to happen for the outcome of your child. So they didn't take no for an answer, and they ended up with the Family Hope Centre in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and completed the programme and graduated after 3 years. So they had, as they say themselves, had 3 years of worry before that, got on the programme, and I saw his outcome scores. We'll be able to explain that if you like. He had a neurological age of, I think, under 50%, around 47%, and he graduated at 97. So his diagnosis was autism, ADHD type of thing, and he's actually in mainstream school with his peers, surpassing them at stages. So I heard about this work then. I also heard it through the Body Talk system. John Veltheim, the founder, speaks highly of Matthew Newell and his wife Carol, and every time I went in some of their workshops, he kept mentioning about this team from Philadelphia. So the situation arose that they were coming to do their 3-day seminar, which we're bringing now to Dublin in September. They did it in the Whirl in Liverpool, and I attended with a child from the clinic I work in, and his father, and another physiotherapist as well went along, and we were just blown away by this information, and we just knew that we had to bring this back to Ireland.
Yeah, and where we have so many children affected and with diagnosis, and so many families without hope is really the key thing. And your clinic, Phelim, by trade, I suppose you're a physiotherapist.
Yeah, I'm a chartered
physiotherapist,
but I do work with the Body Talk system, and I also I'm a cranial psychotherapist and myofascial release. So I combine all the therapies, and body talk utilise cranial sacral myofascial release, so that also got me interested as well.
Okay, and I suppose maybe we're talking quite technical, some quite technical terms, or we're talking neurological development, we're talking body talk, we're talking craniosacral, and certainly my understanding of the neurology bit of it is whereby one of the things that struck me that was so interesting about the work was that, you know, it's not a diagnosis that the Family Hope Centre work with. It's what the child can do, working on from what they can do to develop further on that and to work with that, and for, I suppose, understanding the neurology bit of it and understanding that the brain can be worked in a way that a leg can be worked or a muscle can be worked, or that type of perspective was, for me, I suppose, quite an eye-opener, because as the introduction with Ronan was through working with reflexology, and I would work with quite a number of children with certain degrees of special needs, but this idea that, you know, it doesn't just have to it doesn't just have to be a diagnosis. Okay, it might take work, it might take a lot of time, and I know, Michelle, you have invested a lot of time, even from the brief information that you picked up on this 3-hour workshop, which was enough to be able to allow you to make some changes with Ronan. What types of things has the neurology bit, or how have you been able to work with Ronan from a neurology point of view,
we
from
just
developing his brain?
That everybody we spoke to, but prior to going to the seminar, was all about coping mechanisms for having a child like that in your home. You know, how to be patient with that. But none of them were an actual cure to the situation, or none of them were saying, "We'll do this and it'll help him in this area." It was. We found it very frustrating as a parent.
Yeah. That it was just basically a damage limitation, as opposed to actually being able to work towards making changes.
So I suppose that's what we were craving from, you know. So it wasn't until we went to the seminar and we heard the information that we were actually blown away by that it was simple in a sense, you know, like going back to the basics. Crawling was stimulating a certain part of the brain. I'm not too familiar with it, but you know, diet was a huge part, physical activity was a huge part, you know. So the small things that we've done since then, and we're very limited to what we know, and we're looking forward to but is the crawling aspect. You know, we've made different obstacles around the house to help him to crawl, and we've been doing a lot more work with him, trying to get him to run and to crawl and to play, and interacting with him a lot more, and a lot more hands-on. Again, it's sort of trial and error with us at the minute, but you know,
it's awareness as well. It's just realising, I think, that there is something you can do. You might not be doing it 100% right at this stage, without the expert knowledge and without bringing those in, but if you can try and do something. And in the time since February with Ronan, then what changes have you been able to see just on that level?
But to me, they've been huge. To the average person, they're probably very minute, but to us, he's fine. He's following directions maybe 5 times out of 10, but that's 5 times more than what he would have been doing. He's also interacting with us 100% more than what he was doing. He wants to play with you now. He wants to pull you into the game, whereas before this, he just, you know, he blocked everybody out and he didn't want to play with anyone.
In his own world, and he was quite happy to stay
there. And very happy, you know.
Yeah, and is now happier with his integration with his older brother and all of that.
He also he wants to build things and see them fall, and whereas as opposed to he wasn't really interested in making anything or completing anything, you know.
Well, the father as a joiner, it would make life a bit difficult not to be interested in building things and stuff like that. So even just the difference that makes to the family relationship then is bound to be
our home life has improved significantly, you know.
Less temper.
There's no tantrums. There's tantrums, the normal tantrums, but you know, it's not the frustration of, you know, we not knowing what he wanted or how to deal with him. You know, I can cope with him and he can cope with me. A sense of he was frustrated that I couldn't understand him, and now I have a little bit more understanding with him. And
it's raising awareness really too for the adults around a child as well. I think
it's us trying to get into his world, and for him to try and come into our world a little bit more. So.
I feel we're talking there about some of the statistics and some of the results that have been seen from the programme. We can maybe, if we get Sean to pop up some of our statistics there, we can have a wee reference to them, but I'm sure you have other figures and things, but our listeners will be able to see some of these. But kids on the autism spectrum showing an average gain of over 242%. I mean, that's and when we talk about those figures, what are we referencing to then? So maybe a wee bit about the scale that you were talking about would be beneficial. What is the point of starting point to compare to type thing?
Well, first of all, it's very exciting to hear Michelle's reporting with her son, and this is only on a like a 4-hour lecture.
Yeah.
So when you do go on the program and you're given a concrete program with a solution for your child's the areas of the brain that your child has that needs neurological development, because it will actually, you know, the laws of nature is that the brain actually will respond, and the neuroplasticity will be laid down, new pathways. So that's very exciting, and you'll see bigger improvements. Yeah, the statistics are measured independently by a group called the WeFin, and they're state-sponsored, American state-sponsored. And the Family Hope Centre have nothing at all to do with the WeFin. They just present their figures, and they're statistically analysed by the WeFin. And these are the true figures, and these are you know, over and above what the national average is in America. They're actually so impressive that it's hard to believe.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
that's why I had to go to the actual 3-day seminar to see for myself. And as you saw in the 4-hour lecture, it all makes a lot of sense.
Well, that was it. It's a very practical. When you start to understand, and I suppose it's very difficult for us here in just such a short time and such a short conversation. What I hope we can do this evening is to raise awareness amongst people that really there are options out there. Do look for hope. Do, you know, try and. It doesn't just have to be a closed door. It doesn't have to be, well, we have to accept this and put up with it. And one of the quotes that I find quite interesting on the day, or one of the references was, you know, it's hard work, but we're working hard anyway.
Yes.
At least now we're working hard and getting somewhere.
That's true. They don't apologise that it is hard work, but at least every 6 months they actually do a reassessment, and then you can see where your child has progressed to, and then the solution is tailored again to suit that part of neurological development. And what's good is they actually work towards the abilities rather than disabilities, which conventional work is coping mechanisms like medication, surgery, things like that to cope.
Yeah, as Michelle says, it's damage limitation in a lot of cases.
So this is for wellness, for neurological wellness. And as the program goes on, you will see that in your child. They don't have a crystal ball. They don't say your child will definitely get better, but definitely they will. If you put in the work, they will see huge improvements.
Yeah. And that's such a brilliant place to start, because we're looking at some of the conditions that we're talking about here: autism spectrum, cerebral palsy. And at the moment in Ireland, are there children working through the programme?
We have one child in Carlow who's cerebral palsy. He's 7 years of age.
Oh, he was at the conference.
And you heard that his optician assessed his eyes and had improved by 70%. And the pons, you talk about the belly crawling, that's the part of the brain that develops your eyesight. And his optician said his eyesight improved by 70%. Plus, he had no more colds, no more flus, even though he used to have his injections for his flu and things like that. His father decided to take him off them on medical advice as well. And the Family Hope Centre are a team made up of paediatricians, doctors. There's an orthopaedic consultant who will be there at this seminar in September. And there's educators and so forth, physiotherapists. There's a full team.
Yeah, so I think that's the important point to note too, is that it is a full medical team. So it's not
all under the one umbrella.
It's all under the one umbrella, and they're medically trained. This is a medical program, albeit that it's different to maybe conventional medical programs. But there is
so much so that in Scandinavia, the Danish government and the Norwegian government sponsor them. So whenever they go to Denmark and go to Norway, it's totally paid by the Norwegian and Danish governments. So we're looking towards the future. We had luckily in that 4-hour lecture, we had a doctor, a paediatrician on it. So he has written about it as well, and he's very excited about attending and taking it further. So
the huge long-term benefits to any health service are there to be seen for that. I mean, only just last week I was watching a programme totally unrelated, but it was on the reversal of type 2 diabetes and how much saving can be made by dietary changes and the reversal of that. And they had 2 girls who had successfully, out of 6, who in a short period of time had been successfully able to reverse their type 2 diabetes. Savings of maybe $500,000 over their lifetime to the
absolutely,
to, you know, moving forward into the medical system. So you just have to think to yourself, well, you know, if that can be done in one field and there can be savings for children across, then a prevention is, not necessarily prevention's better than cure, but certainly doing something in at their young age is much better than having to deal with problems as a child gets older, and those problems can often become more complicated, maybe when it comes to toilet training and things that are more difficult as you're dealing with adults and stuff.
True, so it's harder whenever the child gets older, but they certainly will treat from a child that's in a coma right through to an adult who's got Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, because it's brain development and the brain's all the time developing. So it's given the right program with frequency, intensity and duration, you will make the changes.
Make the changes, of course. It's certainly, it's really exciting and really fascinating. And the dates then for the conference that's been held in Dublin?
The conference is held in Dublin on the 6th, 7th and 8th. That's for the parents to, it's to learn exactly what's going on in the brain, how neurological wellness works from the time the child is born, which is the development of the medulla oblongata. So every child is hardwired with reflexes which should be present. Then the next stage they learn about is the pons, which is the higher level of the medulla, and then the midbrain, then the cortical levels of the brain, the more sophisticated areas. So from that 3-day seminar, the parents, after listening to the workshop and going through their chart, they will understand exactly the area of the brain that their child is hurt at and to what extent. So rather than giving it a label for a collection of symptoms like autism or ADHD, cerebral palsy, they will actually be able to work out the exact area of the brain that is hurt, and then develop a program specific for that area. Because we know how each part of the brain develops. It's a matter of going back to that part and then re-establishing those pathways.
And just getting them sorted back out on their, get them sorted on their way. And I suppose a lot of that sounds like, again, it could be technical, you know, we're talking about understanding brain development and understanding that. And I know one of the things that I picked up on having looked at the website and looked at that is how easy, how capable they are of explaining those parts to the brain, you know, the medulla oblongata, and words that, you know, you remember maybe vaguely some of them from a biology class way back when you had to learn about the central nervous system, and you picked up a few bits and pieces, and suddenly there could be a certain amount of fear amongst parents where, you know, am I expected to be the specialist? And well, I know one of the things
he talks about that they won't go into, first of all, they won't go into the minutiae of the brain. It's not going to scare people away. It's explained in a very practical, easy manner, and the big chunks of the brain that are important for their development. And basically the unique thing about it is, rather than going to a therapist for 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week and then running to some other therapist for something else, then to another therapist for something else, this is all under the one umbrella. And you don't become the therapist per se, you become an engineer, he talks about. You're re-engineering the brain so that it develops as the brain should actually function.
Which
so you become an engineer.
Michelle, you're off to be an engineer. Tie in nicely. And it is that, I mean, I know we come away, and it's not even the names that stick with you, it's what you do and where you know, where you go and how you can go about, and the practical stuff that can be done. And actually I remember thinking that, you know, really knowledge of how a child's brain develops should be just commonplace. It should be given along with a, you know, when a woman becomes pregnant, along with a starter pack. But I know that there are some changes certainly that I'm aware of. I'm not sure if you're aware of them. Any films, haven't spoken to a friend who has a wee girl who's 4 now and a wee boy who's 18 months, and she said even the difference in the information that she was picking up from the hospital, they were given, you know, leaflets for the secondary fellow that she wasn't given for the first, on the importance of tummy time and on the importance of crawling and how important it is. Because I think one of the things too is that parents get so excited when a child walks, when they bypass the crawling stage, and when they when they get naturally on to the next bit. It's like, yeah, that's great, without realising how important the crawling stage really is. And that struck me. I mean, I'm going about telling everybody, make sure they crawl, make sure they crawl. And I'm not sure even, I mean, I'm sure there's right and wrong ways of crawling, but I think just the importance of emphasising that.
Yeah, as Matthew explained on the 4 hours, it's not how they get to walking. It's not when they get to walking, it's how to get there. And just as also on that, it's not just creeping and crawling. They look at 7 different aspects of the brain, sensation, mobility, tactility, the emotional brain, the handling, the voice, all of this. So all of these things are looked at. And so you probably heard that time about how important smell was.
Well, that was another one that we came away with.
So these are little things that you heard in the day, but they're going to go into much more of that in the seminar. And then on the Monday there's a workshop for the child where they're assessed, and then the parents are given a concrete program to follow for 6 months, 7 months, and then they go back and get reassessed, and they're given another program. So they've got something concrete that they know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
Plus, what I get from is then you have something to work towards.
Absolutely.
You have your aims. And
you're always, and we all do. What gets measured gets done. Isn't that the famous saying?
Yeah. Whereas at the minute we're in limbo, we're going from, as you say, one therapist to another therapist, speech to language therapist, occupational therapy. You're going from here, there, and everywhere, and you don't seem to be getting anywhere. Whereas before, this is the way my life was before, and the frustration was, it's all in the name. The hope, is 80% of it. It really is.
Yeah, it's just being able to give hope, really, isn't it? And to let people, and even I suppose as a broad spectrum, is to say to people, be it the Family Hope Centre, be it to look outside of the box, and there are always answers. There's always, be it even I'm sure through your body talk, your cradle sacred, your physiotherapy. There's lots of times whereby you think, well, I just have to put up with this, and that's not always the way with health. The body is an amazing tool that will, with the right activation and the right support, be it through dietary, be it through stimulation, be it physiotherapy, be it reflexology, be it whatever it might be, it will bring itself back into, because its natural state is to be healthy and well, and anything from that is a deviation.
Absolutely.
And I mean, even as you say, even eyesight for somebody, even it doesn't do anything else, if it can help a child's eyesight, or it can help by realising how to figure out the brain correctly, then that makes...
There's probably people watching this that can see their child who goes up to the room, they've asked to do, 1 or 2 things to do, and they can't do it, or they're a bit clumsy, or they can't read, or they can't follow, maybe they're told they've got dyslexia. All of these things are brain. It's all happening in the brain. So instead of working from the outside, we work from the inside. We start where the source is, which is the brain, and get the pathways working. So if someone has cerebral palsy and they've got spasticity in the legs, conventional treatment at the moment is usually Botox and surgery, but that's working on the muscles. It's not actually working at the messages going from the brain down. And this is what they do in the Family Hope Centre. They start from the source of the problem, the brain. And this is where they get the remarkable results.
Yeah, but it's like anything. I mean, if you start with this, if you've got a hole in your wall and you paint over it, you'll not get very far with it. It might cover it over for a certain period of time, and it might make it look worse, but it's going to gradually appear back again unless you figure out, well, why is the hole there in the first place?
If your foundations aren't good in your house, you're going to have a wobbly house. So you need good foundations in your brain development, starting from the reptilian brain right through to the cortex. And that's the beauty of it. The parents will understand that. When they understand that, they've got the best motivation to work with their kid, and they're the people who know their kid as much as anybody, much more than anybody else. So with that motivation, and given the frequency and intensity, then the results happen. So that's the excitement thing.
And I think that is the excitement. It's about empowering individuals or families to take care of their precious, their precious child.
It is that, because you do feel like, so helpless and so useless as a parent, when somebody tells you that there's this or that, or, and what do you do or where do you go? And there is no getting. Look, when I started all this, I didn't know what
where you were going
was, or or craniosacral therapy was, or anything. But when something's wrong with your child, you look, and but that's my experience. But other people may not get that experience, or may not, or just accept it and feel like, oh, this is it. But that's what I wanted to raise in this, was a more awareness that all these things are out there. We just have to
sometimes. Can I also add that it's the family hope, so it's based around the family. So it's not just all the focus on the child, because we're aware how parents are pulled from left, right, and centre with work, with the other children, all of this. So it's actually based very much so on the whole unit as a family, and when a family pulls together, it's much stronger than one person. It's important to get everybody on board as well.
Yeah. Well, I know you've direct experience of that as well, Michelle.
My house is like a jungle at the minute.
They're all
everybody crawls.
They're all working. So, but I think whenever we look at that, and the importance is, as you say, Michelle, the maybe the vulnerability is it that you feel, or the lack of power that you feel when everybody else is telling you what's right, and yet your own intuition and your own thing is what really will tell you what's right. I mean, I had a story of a friend told me recently where they were working with a social worker a number of years ago, way back. Their child was quite young at the time, and the social worker said, no, I am the person, I've done the qualifications, I've done the work, or implied it. They may not have said the words directly, but that was how the parent felt. And yet she's like, no, but I'm with this child 24/7. I know what their problems are, I know where they are, and I just maybe don't know exactly how to fix them at this time, but I know what their problems are, and I'm a much better source for finding a solution or in supporting them to get to a solution than what somebody who is spending an hour a week with the child will be. So I think the empowering of individuals is the key bit, and then from that the community can be empowered, and people are empowered around you, because there's a sharing of knowledge as well, as opposed to the expert sitting up here and everybody else sitting down here looking up and going, give me answers or help me out with stuff.
But that's what the ethos as well is with the Family Hope Centre. When you leave after the 3-day seminar, and if you decide to bring your child on the Monday for the workshop, when that finishes, it doesn't stop there. You have access to the Family Hope Centre when they go back to Philadelphia. If you have any questions, you can actually call them on a Skype call, video your child, ask them, this is how my child's progressing, is this the way it should be going, blah blah blah. So there's a virtual clinic. So the Family Hope Centre work very much with the parents and the family as a team, rather than the expert.
And there's an integration there where they feel. And I think that warmth is quite apparent.
Coming from
it came across very well. That warmth and that genuine, Karen, because again, I know the founders of the Family Hope Centre, they've been through this, so they're speaking from
stories.
It's not often, it's only whenever we go through it ourselves that we're able to help others, and really to thoroughly understand the pain and the difficulty that it can cause, and more than just the problem of the child not being able to do X, Y and Z, but as you say, the knock-on that has on family life, the restrictions that can come about, the adjustment to normality that comes about when maybe things just aren't right, and you can't do exactly what you would like to do because of X, Y or Z, and the challenges that can come there. So I think when somebody has first-hand experience of that, plus add to that the personal experience, the 30 years experience of other people's experience, and then the medical knowledge of a neurologist, and you've got a pretty good solution all round. And I think really that's where, for anybody that is looking for answers or is finding things are challenging, that it's really worth just having a question and looking out there to see what is available and what options are there really, and where we can go. Because as you said, the seminar's quickly coming up in September, but hopefully there'll be a significant uptake on that if it's maybe too close this time round for people, that they can still find out some information. But I suppose it's never, it's the sooner you can get started on these things, the better.
Yeah.
I know we dropped, it was drop of a hat, Michelle was sort of, we go to this tomorrow type thing, and we took ourselves off. So
Well, this is what happens. These things happen, and then we're hoping that we will be able to bring them back rather than people having to travel to Philadelphia. So it cuts down on costs for the families as well.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And I do know of people who can't afford it. I know of a couple of situations where they've done some fundraising and it's very successful with the particular child I know in Carlow that I work with. It was all fundraised as well. So,
and the community are great.
yeah.
You know, community support is great, and it rallies round that at times like that, particularly I think where children are involved, and the community can see then the benefits that they get
once
from
you
it.
go on this seminar, you guys are exactly know what they're talking about. Once you're there, you're just gonna you're gonna go with it because it just makes complete sense.
Yeah. Well, anybody, Michelle, have you anything else that you'd like to add just before we finish off?
Just my life was very, very different before the seminar. I know that sounds really a wild statement for some people, but life was tough with Ronan up until that day you kindly took me to Dublin. It was very frustrating. Like, we couldn't go to the shop, we couldn't go out for a meal, we couldn't, but that's all the things we couldn't do. Now there's so many more things that we can do. He's a lot more calmer, he's a lot more relaxed. We're calmer, we're relaxed. He's getting better every day, and I can't wait to September till I actually know what I am doing. At the minute I'm just
it's all up there,
just in the air, I'm taking it day by day.
Well, we hope that over the next couple of months maybe we'll be in a position to bring Ronan in and let him share his story with us himself, and certainly just to come back again and tell us of your experience of that. And Phelim, I'm sure there's other people that are hopefully attending the seminar as well that will have some good stories. So we hope that we can keep continuing that cycle of hope, and really just keep it going and keep the awareness going that there is definitely hope out there. And yourself, Phelim, just before we finish up for this evening, have you anything that you'd like to add or mention? Or
yeah, it's just exciting to hear Michelle's experience just from listening to them for 4 hours. And it was a bit like what I was like when I first heard it, and then being on the seminar, I just so happy that people are going to get access to this knowledge, and when they've access to that knowledge, it's just going to grow. And so hopefully we'll make a lot of families happy, and there'll be a lot of people coping better. Children will be going towards that brain wellness and improving, doing well in school and so on. And this isn't just for children who are at school. It can go from the profound brain hurt right up to your dyslexia and things like this. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, and that's, as you say, there's there's a whole spectrum there that it can catch lots of people in on it. And I suppose when we're talking about brain wellness and we're looking at destination wellbeing, we can hope that hits hope that hits home for a lot of people. And
can I add about the if people wanted to find some information, they can go to the Family Hope Centre website. It's Family Hope Centre, spelt CENTER.org. Or you can go onto Facebook. I have a Facebook page, Family Hope Centre, again CENTER Ireland. And there's lots of stories there, videos, testimonials, and further information on the seminar and workshop in September.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, and thank you both for your time this evening. And thank you very much. You're welcome. Thank you to our listeners and our team here at Destination Wellbeing. And we have our next week's show. Will funny be on another topic connected. As we're moving into Alzheimer's week, so our Alzheimer's month in September. And I have a guest on next week from the Alzheimer's Society. So quite a focus on brain and brain hurt, I suppose, at the moment. But just to say thank you very much for everyone, and thanks for coming along.
Thank you.
Thank you. All good.